Hello everyone, grab a snack, a beverage. This might take a while because my name is Rose and I'm really good at talking. Okay, so The Punisher Season 2. I have a lot of things to say. I will try to keep this first part spoiler free just in case you haven't seen it yet. Overall opinion, I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm quite mixed on season 2. I personally, and I guess disclaimer, all of this is just my opinion. A lot of this stuff is very subjective. If you agree with some or all of my points, well, gosh golly bee, I'm not going to complain about that. If you disagree with if you disagree with some of my points, that's fine too. We can still have a nice, fun, civil chat about this. Cool. So, season 2. I enjoyed season 1 because I felt that the script was tighter and the structure of the season itself also flowed better compared to season 2. Season 2, the writing wasn't quite as strong. The structure, particularly, well, when it comes to the interweaving of the plots, because there is more than one, it was a little bit of a mess. And I feel like that might actually be my only points that I can make without getting into spoilers, so hope that vagueness was vague enough for you and you're cool with that. So for sure, go watch season 2, come back, and let's dive into season 2. So spoilers now, just all of them. I read several reviews after watching season 2 because I wanted to get some different perspectives and different opinions, and one of the articles I came across was from denofgeek.com, and an article written by, what's his name? My computer's over here. Tyler McCarthy. He pointed out that season 1 played like an origin story for Frank, which that's actually true. That's a very fair point, Mr. McCarthy, because we already got the origin story of Frank in Daredevil season 2, and yet having this pointed out, it didn't really bother me, to be honest. And oh gosh, I wrote out a lot of thoughts and notes on The Punisher season 2. I wanted to find, of course, a nice balanced outlook and opinion on this. I didn't want to, well, in this review, I don't want to just continually point out negative things. I really hope I'm going to have a balanced review here with the negatives, what I see as negatives, and positives, because I don't enjoy being negative for negative's sake. So, let's do this. The plots. Let's jump in right there. Some of the main plots is you have Billy Russo, which is a continuation of his story from season 1. You have the Schultz conspiracy, which deals with the Schultz parents. You have their son, David, who is a U.S. senator, and the Schultz have groomed David practically from birth to eventually step up and become the president. That's what they want for him, and everything seems to be going smoothly except for the fact that he's gay. And although there is nothing wrong with that, the parents don't seem to think so. There's very clearly a lot of things that they do not deem fit for the running of the country, and as I'm sure the entire audience who has watched The Punisher season 1 and season 2, there have been real-world things incorporated into both seasons, so, heavy stuff. Yeah, we're aware, I'm aware, you're aware. Cool. Let's continue on. Anywho, basically, there's a conspiracy there with the Schultz family. That's supposed to be a main plot thread throughout all of season 2. However, it progressively becomes less and less of a main plot point and more of a subplot as the season continues, which That's a problem. I definitely think that the writers did not give enough backstory and just story in general for the whole, let's call it the Schultz conspiracy. The Schultz, again, they're supposed to be a prominent main plot point, but because they weren't given enough, the story itself kind of comes in and out of the season. Sometimes for episodes at a time, we don't even see the Schultz. And so, when we reach the end and it comes time for the Schultz to be punished, it's not fully satisfactory, to be honest. It doesn't have that punch that you would hope and expect from such... They're terrible people, okay? Everything that they've done, and I think perhaps not even just at this point in time, in the present time of season 2, with the whole Pilgrim being brought in and lots of murdering happen. I'm pretty sure there's other things in the past that the Schultz have done, but we don't get to see that. We're not really even told anything else besides this particular event that has brought in the character Amy and of course Frank and Pilgrim and whew. So that was definitely a big part of why I feel mixed on season 2. Another big reason, Billy Russo, aka Jigsaw. Okay, I'm probably gonna get some flack for this, but again, folks, this is just my opinion. If you enjoy Billy Russo and Jigsaw, awesome. I'm not taking that away from you. For me and my husband, we felt at the end of season 1 of The Punisher, we're like, okay, that happened. We're kind of done with Billy Russo. But alas, he's a main thread in season 2, and I get it because I have not read the Punisher comics, but I definitely understand that Jigsaw, he's a main antagonist and villain towards Frank Castle. I get that. Even knowing that, it doesn't necessarily mean that I enjoyed it. That aside, I will say that although I did not fully enjoy Billy's story throughout this, I do think his story it felt far more complete than the Schultz plotline. I felt he had a good arc where we start with him in the hospital and him getting out and him trying to figure out a huge chunk of his past that he just no longer has. And that's also, of course, a huge piece of his identity, and he's trying to get that back. Him working through that, him working through his demons, and of course his main demon and his own antagonist is the Skull, which is Frank Castle, and eventually he realizes that. Him finding this stuff out, internalizing this, and then trying to figure out, okay, well, I've discovered some truths, although I don't think he's discovered everything that he can, but, you know, I guess for Billy, he's reached a point where he's learned enough that he's like, okay, I have this, and now let's move forward. And we see him do that, and very much like season 1, Billy Russo's character he loves power. That's one of his main things. It's just a core of his character, and that's definitely what he wants back. He wants not only to understand himself, so he wants his identity back. I mean, I get that. He definitely wants power back. And he does reach that. And then moving on from that, he's like, okay, I have all of this stuff, and then now we're gonna go from here. And along for the ride, he has Krista, which I have some things to say about Krista, but that's a little later. But with Krista, he wants to have a future with her. He wants to, presumably settle down with her. Okay, cool. And then, like I said, this is spoilers, and then we see him get killed. Rather unceremoniously, and I have a couple more thoughts on that. So the Schultz and Billy, those are the two main plots going through season 2. Of course, there are other plots and subplots happening, but those are the main ones. Another issue I had with season 2 in part of the writing was the amount of big and small cliche moments that came up. I get why they were there. I understand the information that they needed to get across for various reasons. I get that. But I feel that the writers could have chosen different methods to let some actions play out. Some moments were just a little bit too on the nose for me, and I think they could have just played a little more subtly, at least for me. So I think it's now time to jump into the characters. Frankie Boy. Let's start with Frankie Boy. Haley Fouch, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, from Collider. By the way, I will link all of the articles that I read down below in case you all want to peruse them yourself. But Haley, she pointed out that the character Frank, he didn't have as many nuances to his character comparatively to season 1. And after I read that, I'm like, I think you're right. Because in season 1, he's still working through that visceral pain of losing his family and still trying to figure out everyone that was involved and taking care of that. His emotions were more raw in season 1. He definitely had a lot more to play with, whereas in season 2, because some time has passed, his pain, to kind of summarize it, it's not quite at the forefront of his mind. It's not like attacking him the way it was in season 1. So even recognizing that the character Frank doesn't have quite as much nuance as season 1, Jon Bernthal, man, he still acts the crap out of everything. Can I just take a moment to fan a little bit over Jon Bernthal, and not just The Punisher season 2, but season 1 and Daredevil season 2. Oh my lordy. Okay. Slight backstory, I went to college I was a theater major in college with an emphasis in acting, and I gotta say, if I ever had the chance to act with Jon Bernthal, I am not sure how I would just keep myself in check, because Broski is intimidating, but in a really good way. What I mean is, he's so obviously very professional, not just on screen, but from what I've seen in interviews and how he will talk about working with fellow actors. He's incredibly professional. And since we're talking about The Punisher, so in terms of this, I can just see on screen, he knows when to rein himself in and let other people shine. He's so good at just playing off of whoever he's coming across, whether they're another main character or a side character or just, a random person that he kind of bumps into on the street. You know what I mean? He makes me at a loss for words, to be honest. He's just incredible to watch, no matter what he does on screen. I don't know, folks, he just has such a presence, and he knows when to really bring that forward and how to rein that back in. And he is just so fun to watch. Okay, I think I got that out of my system. I think I'm good now. So, Frank's character. I don't think his arc is bad necessarily in season 2. I do still think perhaps not as drastic as season 1. He still has something to play in season 2. And although it kind of feels like the third time where he's deciding, yes, now I am the Punisher, we still see a journey towards that. And I think a different thread of that, we see him struggle with figuring out his own balance of what it means to be the Punisher. We definitely see him have some dark moments, and the darkest moments for him was when he was interrogating the Marine vet to figure out where Billy is. And Madani definitely points this out to him, saying, you need to dial it back right the heck now, because right now you are just like Billy. That is something Frank wants to not do. He does not want to be Billy, but my gosh, there's such a fine line, isn't there, folks, between Billy and Frank. To me, Billy, he's very black and white, whereas Frank, he is all gray area, but dark gray area. Frank has a code. As interesting of a code that is, he has one. You're a bad person, you're gonna die. Whereas with Billy, he really has nothing holding him back from just taking out people who are in the way of whatever goal he has in mind. Ooh, and with Frank's journey, kind of rewinding a little bit, at the very beginning, in episode 1 and 2, we see Frank have a fling with a character, with a bartender named Beth. And I didn't have an issue with this at all because he was trying to test out, can I be a normal dude? And I am so disappointed that we are not going to get a season 3. We might way in the future, maybe with Hulu. Who knows, because all the mergers and it's a mess, folks. But most likely, we are not going to get a season 3. What I would have loved to have seen in season 3 was a continuation with Frank and Karen. Whether you see them as just really close friends, or if you see them in a romantic light, which I very much do. Plus, I mean, Deborah Ann Wall and John Bernthal, their chemistry is off the freaking charts when they're on screen together. And also their characters from the moment go in Daredevil season 2, they just had this connection, and my gosh, I loved every single time I got to see them on screen together. Okay, yes, it's still going. My God, why am I so red? Good Lord. I'm fine. I swear I'm fine. I'm just a little toasty. When I get a little bit toasty or show any emotion, it shows on my face. Anyways. Where was I? I got distracted. Season 3, I'm probably really repeating myself here. Gosh darn it. Frank could have had a romantic relationship with Karen in season 3. I see Beth as a stepping stone towards that. And this very much highlights another issue that I had with the writing for Karen in The Punisher. The writers never had Frank ask Karen really anything that's going on with her life. They clearly have Karen saying, Frank, what's going on? Can I help you in season 1 and season 2? But not vice versa. And it's like, gosh darn it, we need a balance. And because Frank was not asking Karen things, and he doesn't really know what's going on with her, and so therefore whatever information that I would say has maintained from Daredevil season 2, that's what he's pretty much like carried with him throughout The Punisher season 2. And so when he comes to conclusions, he doesn't have all the information. Like, I think it was in episode 11 is the one that Karen is in season 2, where Frank essentially brings up Matt. Karen, there's Matt. He's a good guy. You should be with him. And it's like, my bro, not only do you not know everything that's going on with Karen, but clearly you don't know what's up with Matty Boy and the lying issue in the past and all of that. Frank just needs more information, gosh darn it. And yes, that was just a thread that bothered me when it came to in season 1 and season 2 with Frank and Karen. Just let Frank in on what's going on just a little bit more, please and thank you. That was a lot on Frank. I'm sure I will think of a few more things later on, but let's finally move on to another character, Amy. I will definitely say that it took me until about episode 5 or 6 to really get on the Amy train. Before that, I felt rather indifferent towards Amy because for the first 4 or 5 episodes, Amy herself just came across very indifferent and dismissive of a lot of what was going on around her. I mean, I understand that. I think part of it is probably just a coping mechanism because, as we learn throughout the season, she has not had a normal upbringing, and she's a grifter. We're not told for how long, but she's been in this grifter life for, it feels probably a few years, maybe longer. She's a con artist, and with that, she lies a lot. So with her just coming across as dismissive, with her lying all the time, I had a really hard time connecting with her character. But I would definitely say by the end of the season, I liked her. A definite positive of her character is The Punisher. It's a dark show, and Amy, she brought light into the show. She brought some comedy into the show, that was nice. That's a nice breath of fresh air. And I think another weakness in the writing of this particular season was the relationship between Amy and Frank. It's very clear that the show wanted us to see Amy as a kind of pseudo daughter to Frank. And honestly, it didn't really become believable to me until the last 2 episodes of the entire season. I want to say that I struggled through most of the season just believing that Frank and Amy had, a really deep connection. They definitely did by the very end of the season, but I don't know, the progression of it just wasn't quite there for me. I was definitely glad at the very end we saw that Amy was going to leave her criminal lifestyle behind and move forward with, we'll call it a relatively normal life. And gosh, I hope so. Because with all of the crap that she went through and the trauma, I would really hope that would be a very solid deterrent from continuing on with a criminal lifestyle. Good for you, Amy. I'm glad you're gonna live a happier life. Sweet. On to the character that was giving Amy a lot of trouble, sleepless nights, and a lot of stress. Pilgrim. I liked him. His story felt more complete compared to the Schultz family, but still not quite full, to be honest. I mean, especially because even Pilgrim would disappear for really large chunks of time in the show, and I'm definitely not a screenwriter. I am not an expert on this, but structurally, let me take a pause on talking about Pilgrim. I just want to say that structurally, they definitely needed to bulk up Pilgrim's story. They definitely needed to bulk up the Schultz story so it would not feel so disjointed going back and forth between the Schultz and Billy and the Schultz and Billy. And perhaps the stories would have flowed better. Or, I don't know, they kind of did this in Daredevil Season 2. The Frank story was more so at the first chunk of the season. The second season focused a lot more on Elektra and the Hand. Perhaps in Season 2, in The Punisher Season 2, they could have had a clearer separation like that. In summary, how the stories played out was just a bit disjointed. It kind of felt like the story wanted us to see that these stories were intertwined when really they kind of weren't. I mean, the only factor that brought them together was Frank. But that's it. Nothing much else. Gotta tighten that part up, folks. But yeah, back to Pilgrim. I enjoyed him. Josh Stewart is the actor who plays Pilgrim, and he has got it nailed down on having this calm, menacing presence. I'm like, yeah, you've convinced me. If I were in the same room as you, I would very much not want to be. I would love to be like on the opposite side of the country, just as far away as possible, because bro, you give off some seriously bad vibes. But for his character arc, he definitely has, it's interesting. He was in, I guess, a mafia, a gang. I'm not entirely for sure the difference between that. He was with some bad people. He got out of that, and it was the Schultz that gave him really a second chance in life, which it's like it was good and bad at the same time. Like, good that he got out of that lifestyle and he had the chance to have a family, a loving family. However, the Schultz are very manipulative people, and they manipulated Pilgrim into being their assassin attack dog. That's what he became. I'm not sure if they used his skills at any point before this whole conspiracy with the son David and Amy getting involved, but in any case, his story arc is a strange one, and I say that because, stay with me on this, folks. So, from what I understand, Frank in the comics is way more hard-edged. He's very much more black and white. But in this season of The Punisher, I feel that Frank is far more nuanced because not only does he let Pilgrim go, he lets was he a businessman? The Russian Poloznev? Like a mafia businessman? Not entirely for sure. He let him go, although later on Pilgrim killed him. And he also let the borderline pedophile photographer go. And from what I can tell, in the comics, all three of these people, they would have been dead. Very much dead. It kind of, okay, this is where I feel kind of mixed on this. It is, for me, it is interesting that Frank is more nuanced in this way, that he let these three people go, and not just nuance, it makes him more unpredictable, which that's interesting to watch. However, it kind of goes against how Frank was established in Daredevil Season 2, and frankly even The Punisher Season 1. Particularly Daredevil Season 2, that Frank in there would not have let these three people go. It's so strange because in Season 2, because he gave these three people another chance, it's like, do you not see the irony here, Frankie boy? This is exactly what Matt has preached to you, what he preached to you, that Matt obviously does not condone killing. He believes in giving people a second chance. And that's exactly what Frank did in Season 2, even though Frank in Daredevil would have said, nah, it's your time to go, bye. No exceptions, no chances. So it's a little bit confusing, to say the least. With Pilgrim, even my husband, he pointed out that, and I do think it's understandable. He thinks that Frank sympathized with Pilgrim's situation, that he was clearly used and manipulated, and he just wants to be with his family. He wants to protect his family, and yeah, Frank could understand that. It's just, it conflicts with how Frank was already established. So there's another thing to add to this whole mixed pot. Moving along to Billy, I pretty much already said a majority of what I wanted to because I talked about his particular plot. He's obviously a big plot point. So the only remnants of things that I have to add is one, and I think this was everyone's opinion, his scars weren't that bad, and so it came across quite over the top for me. I think there were 3 separate moments where different characters pointed out and made fun of and kind of harassed Billy because of his scarring. And it was just over the top because, yeah, he's got some scars on his face, but bro could probably still do some modeling if he wanted to. So that didn't quite play out for me. Another big issue for me of just not being able to really connect with Billy is he was just hard for me to watch because he, very much like season 1, even in season 2, he was very self-righteous and very entitled. And that's just hard for me to enjoy, to see. And again, I understand that he's the antagonist and the villain, and I think I might have already stated this, so I'm just doubling down on this particular point. You don't have to enjoy every villain that's in a movie or TV show. There have been villains that I've enjoyed, like just off the top of my head. Voldemort from Harry Potter, Umbridge from Harry Potter, Killmonger from Black Panther. I enjoyed watching them. Billy is just a villain that I did not enjoy watching. It is what it is. Hey guys, I realized after completing filming that one aspect that I forgot to mention when I was talking about Billy Russo's character was also Ben Barnes, who plays Billy Russo. So it very much goes hand in hand. Not only was I not the biggest fan of Billy Russo's character, I objectively, I might get some flack for this too, objectively, Ben Barnes is a good actor. I just did not jive with his performance for the most part. Gosh, before anyone gets on my case about that, I'm sure if you just give it 5 minutes thought and think about an actor or actress's performance in a movie or television where objectively you can say, yes, that is a good performance. It just didn't work for me. And that's how it is for me and Ben Barnes. So it was a combination of the performance and the character itself that I just wasn't a huge fan of, folks. Oh yeah, and the other thing about Billy's character that I forgot to mention in my original recording was simply that I actually did not mind the fact that at the very end, Billy was just killed unceremoniously. It sounds terrible to say that, but with his character, I was glad that they did not give him a chance to monologue about anything. I think he only got out, Frank, of course it's you, I'm glad it's you. He got a few sentences out, but then, nope, Frank doesn't want to hear your crap. He's done with you, you've caused enough pain, bye. As dark as that sounds, but I appreciated that. Yep. So Billy gave some serious PTSD to Madani. So let's chat about Madani. I liked Madani in season 1. I liked Madani in season 2. What I really wish they would have shown more of, there was one scene where a lab analyst vocalizes that herself and I guess other co-workers around her and perhaps other people in different departments that fall under the umbrella of Homeland Security really admire Madani. They think that she's a fantastic worker, she's strong, but I just wish we could have seen more of that rather than just being told that, because in season 2, I don't think we ever really see her on the field for anything or even at work. She talks to 2 people that are her colleagues but outside of the office. And I do understand it's because she's very much fixated on Billy and finding a solution, a resolution to that entire issue. I just wish we could have seen more of her in her own element, if that makes sense, in her own environment. And so with her PTSD, I was kind of surprised and perhaps not surprised. At the very end, it shows that she has left the Department of Homeland Security and she now works with the CIA. And it's like, she still wants to have a role where she, in summary, can protect people. But I think it was definitely a good thing for her to leave the Department of Homeland Security because she's had so many personal bad experiences there. So it's like, woof, I get you, girl. That's understandable. Now with Madani, there were two particular big instances that just didn't sit right with me. The first was I think it was episode 10, where pretty much throughout the entire episode, we see Krista, the doctor, and Madani chatting for a few hours and drinking wine. My issue with that is, although it's clear that Madani, throughout the entire time Billy was at the hospital, she's been there morning and night for, I don't know, maybe half an hour at the time, not sure. And obviously, Krista, the doctor, would have been there quite often while Madani is there. But to me, the only thing that came across was, I am Madani, and this guy shot me in the head. I am Krista, I am his doctor, and I'm trying to help him get better. That they were on civil terms, but I feel like the only thing that would have passed between them was good day, good day. And that's pretty much it. So, this long-winded explanation is just, it did not make sense for, I believe it was Madani, reaching out to Krista to have a few hours heart-to-heart, just talking about things. I'm like, where did this comfortable rapport come between you two? Because that wasn't really established, and why would this happen now? And Madani for sure seems like the type of person that has a hard time trusting people, particularly given her profession. So that didn't make sense to me. Another part that did not make sense to me was, I think it was episode 12, the fight between Krista and Madani. Krista is a doctor. That's it. Whereas Madani, she works for the Department of Homeland Security. I would imagine that given she's a field agent, she would have some baseline training in hand-to-hand combat. From what I can tell from season 1 and season 2, I think her gun skills are more superior comparatively to her hand-to-hand combat. But again, I think she would have some baseline of training there. So perhaps this isn't quite the right terminology for her, but I'm going to call it a cat fight. Gosh darn it. The cat fight that happened between Krista and Madani did not make sense to me. Why is this doctor, who does not seem to be in peak physical condition, and by the way, side note on that, I think, so the character Krista, she had a limp. It seemed like the limp kind of went away at some point in the show. Like, it was around for a few episodes and then it just disappeared. Did anybody else notice that? I definitely did. Anywho's, so Krista, not in peak physical condition, whereas Madani should be. Again, given her profession, she seems to be recovered from being shot in the head physically. Mentally, emotionally, not so much, but physically, she should be fine. So, that just didn't sit right with me. Did anybody else feel that way? Did it bother anyone else? Oh, golly bee. Nope. I even have notes written out for all of this stuff, and yet I'm still talking so much. I didn't think I would. Why am I surprising myself with this? Why am I always surprised of how much I can talk? I should be used to this. What other characters do I have to talk about? Oh, Krista. I'm trying to think of a way to not just be a Debbie Downer on the character Krista. But there's a lot of things that I didn't quite care for. Krista, in essence, felt like a cheerleader towards Billy pretty much throughout the entire thing, cheerleading him on for his violent whims. And that was kind of it. besides being in a toxic and unhealthy relationship with Billy, which that happened. Okay. It took until like episode 9 to get any sort of backstory on her. That was heartbreaking. That was sad. But beyond that, Krista's character, I don't know. She's kind of a bizarre prop in some ways. Again, because she's just this very manipulative and her own dose of psychotic human being who just is fixated on Billy. At some point concludes that she loves him. Okay. It was so weird. It was so weird. Her and Billy, they're in a toxic relationship. And so with that in mind, they went through this back and forth, particularly Billy saying, I need to go, no, let's be together. I need to go, you shouldn't be near me. I'm bad news. Let's be together, yes. It was a constant push and pull thing happening. And then Krista being fine with, and very clearly helping to plan murders and being fine with that and not wanting to take the blame, which, oh, honey. Yeah, you're a big part of the blame of those innocent women being killed. As you can tell, I just have a really hard time with her character. If there had been an opportunity for a season 3, harsh truth, I would not care to see her in season 3. Even though she survived the fall and she could very clearly be season 3 villain, which, please know, incredibly cliche, because it was essentially, you killed Billy, now I kill you. Okay. No thanks. No thanks. What did you all think of her character? Let's move on. So, the other characters, let's put a bright spot. Yes, let's get some light into this. Some other light. Curtis! Who doesn't love Curtis? I loved him in season 1. I loved him here. He is just such a good dude. Granted, him participating in Frank's work and standing back and watching the torture happen with the Marine vet. Not sure how to put that into words. But overall, he's just a good dude. He wants to help people who are having a hard time. Gosh golly bee. And he is just a fountain of wisdom. And he very clearly should remain in Frank's life. But definitely, as Curtis learned in season 2, he can be in Frank's life, but very much on the outside and not working directly in Frank's business because things don't go well. That does not create a healthy life. But for sure, Frank very much needs people like Curtis who will keep, honestly, Frank's humanity intact, as intact as it can be, to keep Frank grounded. I don't know, folks. I mean, it's very obvious that Frank was trying to push everyone out, that he can be a lone wolf and kill a bunch of people who he deems unworthy.
You're all not worthy.
But as we've seen in Daredevil season 2 and The Punisher season 1 and season 2, no, Frank, you need people like Curtis, like Madani, like Karen, who give a crap about you and want to see you live and not constantly be on this, well, if I die, I die. As long as I take them down first, it's whatever, man. Oh, Frank, you need a little bit of light in your life. Like Curtis. What a good dude. And oh my gosh, if there had been a season 3, one of my biggest requests would just be, stop hurting Curtis. Stop it! Oh gosh, it hurt me so much seeing it in season 1, and then when it happened again in season 2, I'm just like, no! Don't do that to Curtis! He's such a good dude, stop it! Oh, stop it. I have many feelings on that. Anyways. Abrupt. So I think the only other character that is noteworthy is Mahoney. I like Mahoney. I've liked him since his introduction in Daredevil season 1 as a beat cop, all the way through his progression as a detective, and while he definitely gets in the way in season 2, because he's just trying to be a good cop, a good detective, and do his job, and if you're a bad person, you need to go to jail. So in some ways, he's kind of black and white like that, and by the end, I think with the encouragement from Madani and from Frank, I think Mahoney is finally understanding that this world of ours is far more gray than perhaps you are comfortable with. And I think that was also a little frustrating, I suppose, not just in The Punisher season 2, but kind of throughout. Mahoney has always been stuck on Frank is a bad guy, he kills people. He never, even though so many characters kept telling him, no, Frank doesn't just kill anyone, he just kills the bad people. He's not going to kill a cop, he's not going to kill innocents. He has a code. And I really think Mahoney had a very hard time grasping that and just, I guess, accepting that. Again, I think by the end of season 2, he was finally starting to go, oh, well, this is Frank, and he exists, and I guess in this kind of world, we need him? Madani was definitely on board with that by the very end. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at the very end of season 2, Madani calls Frank like, so, got a bad guy for ya. I think he needs your brand of punishing, of just being taken care of. I don't quite think that the justice system will do the correct justice, if you know what I mean. How do you feel about that? And of course Frank was like, nah, I already got a job. Just talk later. That was quite the journey. I gave you pretty much all of the information of season 2, but I said it was a season 2 spoiler, so, you know, I'm on brand or something. As I said, I liked season 2, but there were definitely many parts that could have been bulked up and tightened. I for sure wish that there was going to be a season 3, because I can see more relationships being fleshed out between Frank and other characters. I just would have loved to have seen that. And just seeing a continual amazing performance from Jon Bernthal. I have seen him in 2 other things to my knowledge. One was that singular episode from How I Met Your Mother. Whoa, that's so strange. Because he played kind of a dude bro in that one, and I saw he had a minor role in the movie called, I think it's from 2017, Wind River, which, whoa, fair warning, that has some heavy material in that. That is usually not my cup of tea, but I wanted to watch it because, well, 3 particular actors are in it. Elizabeth Olsen is in it, Jeremy Renner, and again, even though it's a minor role, but Jon Bernthal was in it. Again, fine to watch once. I will not watch it again. Good movie, beautifully shot, very visceral, but caution on that one. So yeah, what did you all think of The Punisher season 2? Did you love it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let's have a constructive conversation about this. So trying to keep on as positive a front as possible. What were some of your favorite characters? Maybe some of your favorite moments or aspects? Just anything that you really liked. Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. and we'll continue to have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!